Lila with My Bilingual Life, and today we're going to work on our English grammar. So, I have a website, mybilinguallife.org, and we have a membership which has conversation classes and reading comprehension classes, but I also have classes that I do here on YouTube for anyone who happens on, and today we're going to work on grammar. So this lesson I'm actually taking for something that we saw in our conversation class this week. We watched an episode of Friends, and the children come trick-or-treating, and Rachel describes their characters. So today we're going to work on using adjectives, and we're also going to practice the words this, that, these, and those. These can be a little tricky, and they're very similar in pronunciation. So I do have a chart that I'm going to show you, but I want to show you something that I always show my students when I do this. So this, that, these, and those actually depends on how many of whatever it is that you're talking about and how close to you they are. So if I have one thing and it's close to me, I'm going to call it that. No, that's not right. This. If I have one thing and it's far away, I'm going to call it that. So this, that. This, that. Okay? If I have more than one, these. And if they're further away, those. So this, that, these, and those. Okay. So here it is in a written form. And if you're in my membership, you'll have a copy of this. If not, I suggest you take a screenshot so that you have this. To me, this is very helpful. So when it's closer to you and there's one, you're going to use this. This. If it's closer to you and there's more than one, these. If there's one and it's farther away, it's going to be that. And if it's more than one and it's farther away, it's those. Now, what verb will you use with these? If there's one of them, you use the singular. Is. If it's more than one, you're going to use are. So, you will see this is, that is, these are, those are. So if you saw a sentence that said these is, something's wrong. If you see a sentence that says that are, something's wrong. Okay, so here's some sentence starters for you. This is a, and whatever it might be. These are, and whatever you're talking about. So let's do some practice sentences. Let's use those sentences and write something out. Let me take me off the screen so you can see this a little bit bigger. Okay. So let's use our pens that we were using as an example. So this is a pen. This is a pen. Okay. Now, if I have more than one, I would say these are These are pens. Good. Notice we used a here because we're talking about one thing in this case. This is a pen. These are pens. Okay. Now you could talk about something that's not necessarily in front of you. For example, I could say, this is, notice I'm going to change this a little bit, an English class. Sorry, that's not very clear. I'm having trouble staying on the paper. Why did I use an instead of a? I just did a video on this not long ago. If it starts with a vowel sound, what you're talking about here, English class, I need to use an instead of a. Good. So, these are my classes. So these are my classes. So these are the kind of classes that I do for grammar in English. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that so you don't miss any of these lessons. They'll be recorded on the channel so that you can watch them if you happen to see it at a time other than when we're on live. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to come back to this. But as I said, we were looking at a video and the trick-or-treaters come to the house and Rachel says, "Oh, you're a very scary witch." So this is an interesting sentence structure. And this isn't a complete sentence. We're just talking about something and we're describing it right now. So let's look at this. If you want to use the word very, which means muy in español, and then your adjective, a word that describes something, and then your noun. This is what you're describing. So there was a little girl dressed as a witch, and she said she was a very scary witch. Good. Very scary witch. Now, if you left out scary, you're a very witch, that doesn't work. You have to use very with another adjective. Very scary witch. Okay, the next one was a very funny clown. So there was another child dressed up as a clown, and she said, "You're a very funny clown." Now, if we took off very and just said funny clown, that would be okay. But if we can't take off funny. We can't have very clown. Okay, so we need very, an adjective, and the noun. So look at this one. This one has buildings. We're talking about more than one thing. So what happens to very? Nothing. It stays the same. So if we're talking about one thing or more than one thing, it's still just very. So in this one we have very tall buildings. Edificios muy altos. Very tall buildings. So this is one of those areas where in Spanish we do something different than what we do in English. Edificios altos. They have to show the gender and the number. That doesn't happen in English. Tall is the same if we're talking about one tall building or 2 tall buildings. The only thing that changes in English is the noun. Okay, so this is very different than what we do in Spanish. You don't say very tall buildings. I've heard some of my students do that. You don't change the adjective. It stays the same. Very tall buildings. Good. So let's look at this next example. Very soft blankets. So blankets are cobijas, and soft is suave. Cobijas muy suaves. Okay, notice this is also different from Spanish. The order of our words is different. In English, the noun comes at the end. The noun comes at the end. In Spanish, we start with the noun. So this is different. So remember this pattern. Very, our adjective, and the noun. So, can you come up with an example? How about an example with our pen? How about a very good pen? I don't know that I would say this is a very good pen, but we can pretend that it is. Very good pen. Okay. How would I make that? Now, let's talk about making that into a full sentence. So remember we talked about this, that, these, and those? We're going to do the same, but we're going to say this is a, or these are. So let's see if we can write these same sentences as a full sentence. So instead of very scary witch, which one am I going to use? This is or these are? Okay, we're talking about one witch, so it's going to be this is a very scary witch. Make sure you put your period at the end for a complete sentence. I'm having trouble staying within the lines with this big marker, but I want you to be able to see it. Actually, let me write. I don't think you're going to see it if I write with my regular pen. Okay, that's what I wanted to see. Okay, how about a very funny clown? What would we use? Yes, we would use this is a very funny clown. Okay, how about with very tall buildings? Very tall buildings. Okay, on this one we are going to use these are very tall buildings. Okay, and the last one, very soft blankets. Okay, we're going to use these are very soft blankets. Okay, and let's go back to my sentence or the example I gave, the very good pen. Which would I use, this or these? This is a very good pen. Good. Okay. So now let's let's try some different things. So I have some Halloween pictures for you, just because Halloween's around the corner. And I thought these pictures were kind of fun. So, let's look at this one. What is a sentence that we could say about this picture? I think let's talk about the house. Does that look like a very nice house? Does it look like someplace you'd like to live? I think it looks like a haunted house. So let's write, this is a very haunted house. This is a very haunted house. Okay. How about these? What could we say about these? Ah, I helped you with the sentence. So we should start with, these are... And let's try not to use the word scary again. Although scary kind of works with these. They kind of look a little angry to me. So I'm going to say these are very angry pumpkins. These are very angry pumpkins. Actually, when they have their face carved like this, they're not called just pumpkins. Do you know what they're called? Those are called jack-o'-lanterns. Jack-o'-lanterns. This is actually an O, apostrophe O. Or actually it should be O apostrophe. Sorry about that. Jack-o'-lanterns. Oh, I didn't spell this right either. Let's try this again. Jack-o'-lantern. And we can add the S if there's more than one. Jack-o'-lantern. Now you don't really hear an O in there. You usually hear kind of a sound. Jack-o'-lantern. Jack-o'-lantern. Good. Okay. So we could say these are very angry jack-o'-lanterns. Okay, let's try one more. I have another picture here. This one is fun. I like this picture. What could we say about that? So they're dogs dressed up as ghosts. How about, these are very silly ghosts. I was thinking about this. I was going to say these are very silly dogs, but I think you probably know how to spell dogs. And you may not know how to spell ghosts. Now the word ghost has a GH at the beginning, but you really only hear the G sound. Ghosts. Ghosts. It's a little bit odd to get the STS sound. Ghosts. Very good. Okay, I have a couple more fun pictures. How about this one? Okay, there's one, so we're going to say this is a very... What could we say? I kind of want to say silly again. But what could we say instead of silly? How about funny? This is a very funny frog. Maybe it's the hat, but I think he must belong to a witch. This must be a witch's pet. This is a very funny frog. Okay. Let's look at one more. What could we say about these? Oh, I helped you out again. These are very... What would be a good word for these? I'm going to use a word and see if you know what it means. It fits this picture a little bit, but not perfectly. I'm going to say shy skeletons. Do you know what the word shy means? Shy is when, in Spanish, would be vergonzoso. Vergonzosa. So they kind of don't want people to look at them. I don't think that's really what's in this picture, but it came to my mind when I saw it. Do you know what these symbols represent? One of them's covering its eyes, the other is covering its mouth, and the other is covering its ears. They're usually shown as monkeys, and they usually say, "See no evil." So that's the one covering his eyes. Good. "Hear no evil." So that's the one covering his ears. And the one covering his mouth is speak no evil. Speak no evil. Good. I'll write that for you in case you want to get it. See no evil. Do you know what evil is? Evil is cosas malas. See no evil. Hear no evil. Speak no evil. That's what those three guys... Sometimes usually you see it with monkeys. Usually you see monkeys covering their eyes, their ears, and their mouth. Okay. I have one more. What do you think about that candy? Would you eat that candy? I'm not going to eat candy with spiders on it. Even if they're fake spiders. I'm not a fan of spiders. So, I'm going to say those because I want those as far away from me as possible. Those are... Now, if they were really yummy, I say delicious. Do you know how to say it when they're not delicious? When they're taste really bad? I'm going to say very gross candies. Now, I realize these candies aren't any farther away from me than that picture of the dogs. But if I use those, that means it's a little further away, at least in our sentence. Okay, I'm going to go... I've got a little room on the bottom of this page. Sorry to reuse the page. But let's end on a happy note. Ooh, that might be a good adjective to use. What could we say about this picture? say, I know. How about this is a very beautiful princess. Good. This is a very beautiful princess. So these sentences help you to describe something instead of just saying, this is a witch. This is a scary witch. We're giving a lot more detail. This is a very scary witch. Now, in our sample video, she actually uses the verb to be. She says, you are a very scary witch. You are a very funny clown. We're going to practice that at a later date. So, if you haven't taken screenshots, this would be a good time to do that. So remember, we went over this, that, these, and those. And we learned our pattern to describe something using very. Very plus an adjective plus a noun. So in my classes, I don't like to just teach grammar. Grammar is very necessary and you need to learn some grammar. But I like to teach grammar alongside of whatever we're doing in our conversation class or whatever we're learning about in our reading class. So I like to teach grammar with examples. So this is just one thing that I like to do in my classes. So if you haven't checked it out already, this is my website, mybilinguallife.org. And I do have a membership, a paid membership on this site. The paid membership has a couple of Zoom meetings each week. And those are private classes just for the people signed up on my website. But anyone can sign up on this website and get access to know when these lives are going to happen. And you'll get to know when some of my new YouTube videos come out and that kind of thing. But I do have more classes available in the membership, and right now it's at an amazingly low price. The price will be changing on Halloween, October 31st. So you still have a couple weeks to get in at this super low price. So let me show you the this, that, these, and those again one last time. Thank you for coming today, and the replay will be available on my YouTube in just a little while. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of me in the membership or put it in a comment here. I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.